You're listening to Counsel, a podcast I launched in 2018. On this show, we explore how lawyers can build satisfying and successful professional lives. There have been enormous changes in the practice of law in the decades since I became a member of the bar. On this show, I bring you conversations with attorneys who have charted interesting career paths as the profession has evolved. I'll speak with consultants who are helping the legal community navigate these changes. We dive into strategies, mindsets, and ideas that can help you grow your practice and grow in and out of our profession. And now, here's today's episode. Welcome back, everybody. Just a reminder that if you're listening to Counsel on one of the audio podcast platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcast, you can also find us now on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, it's nice to have you here. In my last episode, I spoke with Mike Rossi about some of the ethical and risk management issues lawyers need to think about when launching their own firms. Today, we're continuing that conversation, but looking at another critical part of launching a successful practice: how you build your brand, establish your visibility, and make sure potential clients and referral sources know you exist. Starting your own law firm can be exciting. You get to choose the work you want to do, the clients you want to serve, and the kind of practice you want to build. But hanging out your shingle doesn't automatically mean that clients will find you. And while you're busy setting up bank accounts, technology, insurance, and all the other pieces of a new practice, you also need to think about something equally important: how you're going to build your brand and generate work. My guest today is Michele Correnti, founder and CEO of Correnti Marketing, a boutique content and marketing and branding agency serving law firms and other professional services businesses throughout New England and the Mid-Atlantic. Michele founded the agency in 2018 and now leads a team that helps firms grow their brands through content marketing. In this episode, we're going to talk about what lawyers should be doing before and after launching a firm to make sure people can actually find them. We'll discuss branding, websites, LinkedIn and social media, content marketing, referral relationships, and how to make the most of that brief period when starting a new law firm is actually news. We'll also talk about what's changed in legal marketing, including the growing role of AI and how lawyers can build visibility without turning marketing into a second full-time job. Michele, welcome to Counsel.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Before we get into legal marketing, can you tell us just a little bit about your own career path and how you ended up focusing on marketing for professional service firms generally and lawyers and law firms specifically?
Yeah, my career started honestly through college. I had internships at the time and I was working for professional service firms. One was a janitorial service company, and I fell in love with the marketing of people behind a service. Product marketing has never really resonated with me, especially in our consumer society, but having these services that are necessary that we need, that I was really drawn to that and learning about what makes the professional behind that service different or how they're doing it differently. And I worked for a regional law firm for a while in-house doing their marketing. I worked with the individual attorneys. I worked with the whole firm itself with its branding and events. And I just fell in love with that side of legal services marketing. And so about 8 years ago, I started Correnti Marketing, and our niche since day one has been law firms, but professional service firms is really the sandbox that we play in. And yeah, I basically started it with the simple concept that your firm does exceptional work and we just make sure the right people know about it.
Okay, and you also had a background in photography, right?
Yes. Yeah. Photography was an interest of mine ever since I was a child. And I would do headshots and things for our clients. Today, less so than I did prior, but we'll do brand photography and headshots for clients too. And it's definitely a part of our marketing. It's super important to have that, whether we're doing it or another photographer is. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you just broaden that? Tell us what are sort of, in general, all the services that you provide.
Sure. So I kind of put it into two buckets. We have the branding bucket and the content marketing side. So on the branding side of things, we'll help with your messaging, your logo, your visual identity, your website. I even kind of compile SEO into that a little bit, like having your website appear on search results. And then on the content marketing side, we work with our clients on a monthly basis to do things like their social media, blog writing, email newsletters, everything that they need to stay consistently visible so that people think of them and they're top of mind for referrals and prospects.
Let's say I'm a lawyer who has decided that 6 months from now, I'm going to leave my firm and launch my own practice. What should I start thinking about my brand and marketing, and what should I be doing before I leave?
It's a great question. And it's one that we do a lot with our clients. I would say like about half of our clients are solo firms that are looking to go out on their own, whether they've already left the firm or not. But it is ideal if you have this like 6 month lead time, right? Because you're working for this firm, the firm is bringing some semblance of business, assuming that they have like a brand or they're known in the community. And you're going to be responsible for bringing in your own clients and having this brand that you need to be proud of. So when we work with a attorney that's going to go out on their own, we talk about a lot of things. We need to figure out like what's their messaging and their ideal client going to be, because everything's going to revolve around that ideal client. You want to make sure that they have like a really clear message, preferably some kind of niche, because that is going to get you more clients if you have a focus rather than being too general. So it's kind of the equivalent of like casting a wide net versus like spearfishing, for example. And then we will work with them to create their visual identity, because you want to be recognizable, you want to be consistent, you want to look professional. So we'll do things like their logo and their website. And then we'll work with them to help launch the firm. And in a perfect world, we'll continue working with them after that with their content marketing to stay consistent. But the biggest thing is making sure you have enough time to do all of those things without it being thrown together really quickly or not really well thought of. You can always go back later, but what we like to say is like that first like 90 days to 6 months after you launch is really key, because you're making this big announcement that you started your own firm. And then, like people need to like consistently see that to be reminded that you're doing this. This is who you're working with, and this is how you can help. So yeah, that's what I would say starting with.
Okay. When lawyers hear the word brand, many of them think of a firm name, a logo, and maybe
Mhm.
some colors. What does building a brand actually mean for a lawyer starting a firm? You've already alluded to some of that.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, it's actually a Jeff Bezos quote, I think. It's from years ago, but he says, like, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And he's essentially saying, like, if you're not creating your own brand, everyone else is doing it for you. So, from my perspective, your brand is essentially your reputation. And there's a lot of visual components to that. And our team loves the visual components because it's like, you're recognizable, you're seeing it consistently, you're going to be remembering it, kind of like the McDonald's arches or a Nike swoop. But it's also just like this whole encompassing reputation of like what you're all about, what makes you different, who you're serving. And you really got to like decide that narrative before you get going, or else you can kind of get lost in the mix and people won't remember you.
Do you have like an example of that? I think for lawyers, a lot of times, you and I both belong to Provisors, our business networking group, and we hear people introducing themselves. And a lot of lawyers will say, I'm a trust and estates lawyer. I do estate planning and I don't do any probate, or I'm a business litigator and I handle commercial disputes, or something very mundane that really isn't differentiated. So can you give an example of how somebody might differentiate themselves with a better brand?
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say is deciding what your ideal client is. So, for example, we recently worked with a woman who was going out on her own and she does employment law. And for starters, she chose to do the employee side of employment law, which is already, like picking a little bit of a niche. But she defined her ideal client profile as like a very strong, successful career woman. And she created all of her messaging around this like ideal client. And what she's doing is basically she's able to attract that person and get that kind of client work coming in, as opposed to if she just said employment law and used a lot of general language, she would be getting a lot of caseload that she's not necessarily interested in or passionate about. For her, it was really important to kind of appeal to this like woman audience, and not necessarily, not work with anyone else, but for the work coming in to primarily be that kind of audience. So, yeah.
I don't know if you feel this way. I know that I meet or hear from a lot of lawyers. I'm listening to them again at our provisors networking meetings. We go to a lot of them. We hear a lot of people introducing themselves. I feel like the lawyers have a tough time sometimes differentiating. I feel like the
Hmm.
financial planners, the money managers really have a hard time. But we have somebody in our group who I think you'll know who it is that represents or works with a lot of women who are recently divorced. And to me, is that kind of what you're saying? Like having that?
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason is it makes you more memorable and you're going to get more direct referrals. So, like you said, like there's an attorney that shows up and they're like, I do litigation. And you're like, great, I know 10 litigators off the top of my head, or that doesn't really help me understand who you are and what you do. So, it helps when you have specificity. And we actually find, and the research actually shows that when you have a niche, you'll get more work outside of that niche as well, in addition to the work within that niche. So, it's people often become afraid that they're gonna, like make people not refer them business because they have this specificity. But in reality, it actually really pays off in the end. We had a client that we've worked with for years, and we finally got them to hone in on the fact that they work with high net worth clients. So they're an estate planning firm. And they've always had this niche, but they've been too afraid to kind of like own it. And over the years, we've really like helped them realize that this is a smart move for them and it's what they're known for already and they should really own this space. So now like all of their content, for example, is focused on this. It's high level topics. It's things that their clients actually care about. And we're just seeing like the engagement increase across the board, like their newsletter, their blog. People are really like coming to them with these like high level questions. In addition to them being like, my child needs help. And it's like their child doesn't necessarily have this like complicated estate, but you're still getting this other work because they like working with you and they trust you.
What about Correnti Marketing? What would you say? There are other agencies that do what you do. So what's your niche?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's definitely law firms. And I think the way that we do marketing for law firms is different. Marketing is such like a broad term. And when it comes to us, like our clients care about their brand, their reputation, and staying consistently like known online as like a thought leader or someone who does this service, provides this service. So for us, it's the way that we approach marketing for law firms that is also different, in addition to the fact that it's just law firms. So our clients, generally speaking, they're great law firms. Usually they're really involved in the community, like whether that's professionally or like locally in their actual like, hometown communities. And we help elevate their brand and make sure that people know about them and that the right people are hearing about that firm. And we really try to make it holistic, like caring about the firm as a whole and asking them questions about other things that are going on, or not making our marketing so far down that like it's not getting the bigger picture. Like we're constantly having big picture check-ins with them to make sure it's like aligned with the company's goals. And yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think having fun and enjoying what you do is definitely a good marketing technique because I spent many years doing recruiting and coaching, but honestly, most of my time was spent on recruiting and that just after 25, 30 years, it just never really felt right. But coaching I love. And
Hmm.
somebody asked me 6 months ago, so I do some work with senior lawyers also, helping them figure out what their next stage is. So I'm basically helping lawyers with retirement like transitions. And somebody said to me, well, what would you do, Steve, if you retired? And I looked at them like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, I like what I'm doing. I have no
Yeah.
intention of retiring. So anyway, you definitely convey a sense that you really do enjoy what you're doing. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I sort of, you send out a lot of great marketing materials. You've got this newsletter that keeps coming out. You're putting out great content. And I don't know if this is right, but I see you as a solo small firm agency that's working with small law firms. Is that your
Yes.
brand? Your brand? Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, we work a lot. So our firm is small and we work a lot with smaller firms. We like to say it's usually like a solo firm or a small firm that has anywhere from like 8 to 10 attorneys. We can do larger. For example, we're working with a client right now. We've been working with them for a couple years where their director of marketing left the firm and we came in the interim to help, support they had a lot of things going on. There was an office move, a rebrand, and this is a firm with like 40 plus attorneys. So we've been able to support them through that process and help create this consistency online and get this really great engagement while they help backfill that position. So that's like another common thing that we'll do for clients, even in like the interim for certain circumstances, but mostly small firms.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're working with a firm that has more than one lawyer, now you've got a few different messages that have to get out. So how do you differentiate between what the individual lawyer's brand is and what the firm's brand is?
Well, it's a great question. Typically, the firm as a whole has an overarching message and an ideal client. In a perfect world, we love it when, for example, the partners of the firm also want to have a presence online. So, for example, on LinkedIn, your personal LinkedIn profile gets a lot more engagement and traction than a company page for a number of reasons. Like the most obvious one being that people like to interact with people directly, and that's who you're connecting with directly. And in a perfect world, we love having that company page to be able to do things like announcements, job postings, kind of like this hub. And then using the personal profiles to have more of that individual's voice. So maybe that individual partner has a niche within their niche or their practice area and they like to focus on that, or their personality comes through in their post. So it's really more about like that individual's unique approach, or if they have like a sector that they work with that's unique. But yeah, we try to balance it usually through like personal versus company. That comes up a lot in conversation, especially for small firms. Like, should it be me or the company that's posting?
What about websites? You
Yeah.
have a brand, that's the firm. You have individuals. Again, if we're talking about more than one individual, and layered on top of that question is, how do websites differ when you're building an estate planning practice, family law practice versus a business litigation practice, say?
Yeah. Circling back to your other question, when it comes to like the website, obviously we want to have different bios for each attorney. And then also the blog is a great place for each attorney to be able to own that space. So if they have specific topics that they want to cover and they'll be the authors of them. So that comes into play for sure. When it comes to creating a website for a law firm, we treat them all as if they're completely different companies. Our clients like working with us because we can do like a templated, classic website, but for each of our clients, we're really asking like the right questions to make sure this website's gonna, reach their goals or whoever they're trying to target. So for example, like we have one client that she's actually from Poland and she found us on LinkedIn and she works with California startups that are scaling up. So in this like investor stage. And she wanted her company to match the feel of them while also like coming back to her like European roots. So it has this like Swedish startup feel to her website. And like that's the energy that it's bringing versus like we have done some more traditional ones where they're like, I'm pretty traditional. Like I want our branding to be modern, but I want the website to be like pretty classic, and we'll like develop the website in that way for them and make sure that it's like easy to click through and all of that. But it just depends on what their goals are and how they want to be portrayed, and then we help make that come to life.
We're in a world of AI now, and it's really, as we both know, just rapidly changing everything. So how would you say AI has changed and organic search has changed with the advent of AI?
It's definitely changing. I think we're still learning what it means to have like ChatGPT and Gemini giving us answers. From our perspective, from what we've learned, is that websites and SEO and the concepts that you should be following for foundational SEO on your website, so search engine optimization, which traditionally is for like, your Googles, your Bings, things like that. The practices there are actually quite similar for what you would do for generative AI. So things like trying to figure out like frequently asked questions for your clients, trying to be more concise or conversational or use bullet points, like readable content. And a lot of that is so the things that you're hearing for like generative AI and how to show up on them, it's similar. I think we're still in this transition phase to see like how it's actually going to pan out as far as like how much is going to be on Google versus ChatGPT. It's something definitely to pay attention to. But for the most part, if you're doing the right foundational work for SEO, then you're in a good spot as we head into this ChatGPT era. But yeah, it's a moving target.
The fact that it's a moving target to me is the biggest and most compelling reason to work with an agency like yours, because you're keeping up with this stuff and presumably your clients are keeping up with their expertise and
Hmm.
staying current. And I try to keep up because I'm not doing marketing, but I'm coaching lawyers on business development. So it's kind of adjacent a little bit, but I'm not doing what you do. And it is dizzying how frequently and it's like I feel like I'm being whipsawed with LinkedIn. Like, do put in links, don't put in links.
Uh-huh.
I mean, just like the recommendations keep going 180 degrees, but having somebody like you to monitor these things, I think is an incredibly valuable service that you provide.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk about like we just the other day we're doing some additional research that we're constantly doing research on, like the LinkedIn algorithm, all of that. But ultimately, to make you feel a little more at peace, Steve, ultimately it comes down to, are you providing thoughtful, actually like interesting and valuable content? And in like, like for LinkedIn, for example, are you trying to create something that's going to get people to engage and stay on the LinkedIn platform? And that goes for any platform that you're trying to optimize for or like hack the algorithm for. They basically want you to put like original, valuable, thoughtful content, like something that's actually thought provoking, it's going to engage people and get them to stay on that platform. So that's kind of where you're hearing like, don't put links in, put links in. It's like if the link is helpful, put the link in. But if it's not helpful, skip it. Like have people stay engaged with the post on LinkedIn. But yeah, we try to remind people that ultimately, like what we're doing for clients is we're constantly monitoring and adjusting what we're doing, but we're always bringing it back to like what's actually quality versus like trying to chase that algorithm.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see lawyers make with their websites and with their online presence?
Ooh, that's a good one. Not having anything. So, for example, like having an old or non existent website, not having a Google business profile. That one's huge and very easy to set up, generally speaking. Having a LinkedIn profile that isn't updated, like maybe it has your old law firm still attached to it. Maybe you don't even have a headshot. Maybe your headshot's from 20 years ago, like a real estate person that hasn't updated their logo in like or web shot headshot in 20 years. Basically everything that makes you either non-existent online or look really outdated or confusing. I actually just had a call yesterday with a prospect, or Friday rather, and she is having concerns about her maiden name versus her married name, and also like balancing working for a practice and also having her own practice. And it was an awesome conversation and a nice challenge to talk about like, okay, what is your goal and how do we make this consistent? How do we make this clear to people online so that they're not confused? Because that's what's happening right now. And those are some of our favorite challenges to work through.
So don't use your bar mitzvah photo, right?
Yeah. Time to update your LinkedIn profile, Steve.
you know, I joke about that. I don't think I ever posted my bar mitzvah photo. I may have done it on Facebook as a joke,
I'd like to see.
but yeah, it's not pretty. But anyway, I did post one of my all-time most popular posts on LinkedIn was a photo of me in college. I look like I mean, I look pretty emaciated actually. It's funny.
Surviving on ramen noodles.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that. It was just like my body type, which,
Hmm.
my age caught up with it. But it's funny how the personal really engages people. I did another one the other day. Well, this wasn't a picture of me or anything, but it was a post about, I don't know if you saw it, but just like how you get all these annoying inquiries that people send to you that may have nothing to do with the services that you provide. And then they'll send you a follow up. I'm still waiting for your reply.
Hmm.
So I did a post on that and it just went, it got so much engagement because it just really resonated. But
Hmm.
going back to the personal though, I mean, any comments, well, not going back to, I guess those are both sort of personal, but any comments about using the personal as a branding vehicle?
For sure. I mean, especially when it comes to being like a solo attorney or having a small firm, people are usually coming to you to work with you. And the difference between like you and another attorney is literally like you and your personality and how you approach things and your like philosophy for life, to make it like really heady. So I think by going personal online, it really benefits you in that sense, because when people feel like they get this like parasocial relationship with you, where they think they know you and understand you, and they're like, wow, that really resonates with me, or like I agree, or I love the way they talk about subjects, and then they're more inclined to actually reach out to you. They say like it takes anywhere from like 7 to 11 touches, and if you like are putting out these personal posts within like, explaining what you do or all of that, it's more touch points where people are like, oh, I kind of like this person, or I'm interested, or like I trust this person, or, so it builds that online parasocial relationship that, not to be like weird, but it just builds that trust that we otherwise wouldn't be able to get in that amount of time.
Lawyers who are working at law firms and then start their own firm have professional relationships and potential referral sources. So, what should they be doing to make sure those relationships actually follow them to the new practice?
Great question. We love talking about launching your firm. The key is making sure it's like more of like a campaign approach, which in our world is basically like making sure you're kind of covering all the bases. So you don't want to just do, for example, like updating your experience on your LinkedIn profile and telling people I started a new position, I launched my own firm. That's great, but that's like one out of a million other pieces you can do. At the very least, we always encourage to have some sort of brand set up, whether that's like a basic logo and website to start, and later you can revisit, like putting more investment in that. Having a Google business profile, having your LinkedIn profile updated, doing that LinkedIn update, but then doing other things as well, like preparing an email list, having an email announcement going out, actually reaching out one by one to your referral sources, your clients, your prospects, all these things, to let them know about this change. And then your really important ones, like meeting up with them, whether that's Zoom or getting coffee or lunch, and telling them more about what you're doing. You really have to spend like that first 3 to 6 months just constantly dripping and letting people know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're really losing this like valuable momentum. It's exciting that you're doing this. There's a reason behind it. Usually there's a niche that you're focusing on, and you really can take advantage of that if you're thoughtful, instead of just being like, I launched the firm. Okay, I'm busy. I got to go practice the law. Like I got to go try to do the work. It's like you also need to be letting people aware of what's going on so that they come to you.
I tell my clients that are thinking about starting their own practice to make sure that they have the capital to survive a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I also tell them not to be penny wise and pound foolish about
Hmm.
certain things. And I think it's hard to get that balance right, because clearly you could spend a lot of money and then run out of money while you're trying to get your business going. But you could also run out of time because you're spending so much time doing all the things that somebody like your agency could take care of very quickly while you're focusing more on, very specific relationship building. So can you say something about that tension?
Yes. I have a lot of thoughts about this. As someone who's in this branding and content marketing space, I know the importance of it, but I also know that if you are a great attorney with a great reputation, and for example, you're networking a lot, like you're going to a lot of provisors meetings or things like that, if you have at least everything foundationally set up and not necessarily like professionally done by our agency, for example, but at least it's consistent, it looks some semblance of professional, not just like Times New Roman font, you can get away with it for a little bit. But I think for most people, it's really this balance of like, what can I successfully do on my own? Like, do I have this capability or design capability on my own, or a taste for design on my own? And what do I need to like hand off to professional? And also, am I the kind of person that needs a professional brand to actually feel confident about doing this? Because a lot of us have this imposter syndrome when we go out on our own. And I can tell you from like all the solos that we've gone and we created a brand for, like they feel so much more proud and legitimate when they go out in the world and they have this like brand behind them and it looks super professional and clean and it's focused. But at the same time, I think it's important to like if you don't have the budget at first, just try your best to be as consistent as possible. And then over time, you can come back and start to like piece through the budget of making it more professional over time, or do it all in one go, like a couple of years in once you have more capital.
Well, on that note, how often are you spending time not just kind of beefing things up, but possibly doing a slight rebrand? How often does that come up in your work?
When it comes to branding and rebranding, it's like half and half. We'll have half our branding projects will be starting from scratch, like someone who's planning this launch and it's, like in the works, whether it's 6 or 12 months. And about half of them are rebrands. So they're established companies in some semblance. So, for example, we're finishing up one for a solo attorney that is finally doing like a professional brand, really wants, like, she knows what she wants, she knows who she wants to work with, and we're creating this brand to make that all like come to life for her. And then also in another case, like we have a client that we started with about 5 years ago, and they're partners of the firm, and the original partner retired, so it's just this one partner that was left over. And she really wanted to rebrand it because it was so old school and they had like no online presence. So like that's another common one where it's like we come in and we make it something that like actually reflects the current team and like what they're about and like who they're looking for to join their team. So yeah, it's about like half of our work is rebranding and half of it is branding from scratch.
We have a little bit of time left. I wanted to hear a little bit about what you have to say about AI. AI has made it incredibly easy to generate blogs, social media posts, newsletters, and other content. And I know personally, it's been an incredibly helpful tool
Hmm.
that is my writing partner. I mean, I most of the time will use some kind of a prompt to get started or start a post and then have AI weigh in. Where do you think AI can help lawyers with marketing, and where does the human voice still matter?
Yeah, great question. Our philosophy is that AI is a tool, and the professionals that are using AI are the ones that are going to get ahead. So, from our perspective, we use it as a tool. There's times that we're using it for brainstorming, perhaps like starting a first draft of something. But what people are missing is that it takes a lot of work to alter that AI system and like create that process and also to like put that human touch on it. I think attorneys can be using it from like a marketing standpoint if they don't have that budget and they have that drive to edit things and make it their own. But I think if they're going to try to like copy and paste or just use, it's just going to get turned into AI slop, and the algorithms are noticing, people are sick of all the AI content. So you have to really know what you're doing to use AI in a successful way. And like you said, it can be such a helpful tool. And I think if you're not using it, you're going to get left behind. But at the same time, you got to be responsible and know the, you know, ways around it.
I noticed that LinkedIn now has a button that you could pull down and label it slop.
Yes. Yeah. This is AI slop, or I think this is AI slop. Yeah.
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 I'm a little bit of I have a slightly different view on this because, and maybe just because I'm a good writer to begin with, so I can read something and know whether it's well written. But I got to tell you, I am relying heavily for content from ChatGPT is what I'm
Hmm.
using. I'd like to switch over to Claude, but I just like ChatGPT just knows me so well already that it's just like, ugh, I don't want to retrain another tool. But
We're
but
biased. We love Claude over here.
yeah, of course. I don't know anybody that doesn't that prefer yeah for writing anyway.
Right.
I don't know. I'm a bit of a contrarian when I'm talking to people that are doing copywriting and whatnot, and
Hmm.
sometimes I wonder if it isn't just nobody wants to be replaced, and of course we're all going to have to adapt no matter what. But
Hmm.
I mean, I think I can go both ways, but I do think that, I don't know, there's a couple of people, improvisers, that are just, I think they've got their head in the sand, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I think I agree with what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think it's the people that don't know how to use AI and are like copy and pasting things and it is AI slop. And then there's the people that are like using AI too much and like they are replacing all the human side of their team. And like I think that's only going to get you so far, especially when it comes to service marketing. Like when you're providing a service, ultimately the person wants to work with you and they want your expertise. They don't want AI slop, or they don't want to be put into a bunch of, like online systems that like walk them through a process. Like they're usually hiring you for you. And I think your unique case, like, because you're like our team, like we use AI as a tool and we have human writers on our team, but you're a human writer as well. And it's like you're using AI. And I know if I sat down with you and watched you do it, it wouldn't be like, write this blog. I don't really have any ideas. It would be like you're basically giving it a draft. It knows your voice, it knows things you don't like, it has previous opinions, it has your edits from last time. So, like, you've created this unique tool that a lot of people are not spending the time or have the skills to do. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like visually, I was a photographer also, but I have like no visual aptitude, like really none. Like I can't draw stick figures. And and I have created some what I think are some pretty good images using ChatGPT. Now I give it the concepts, like I'm able
Hmm.
to think conceptually, but I can't execute at all. And
Yeah.
to me, it's just been like incredible, like
The AI
incredible.
images, I will say, I personally think people need to be careful. And maybe I'm just being protective over like art and things like that. But I just think everyone can tell you have an AI headshot these days. Nobody wants to see the posts that look like AI created this like crazy 3D looking event invitation. Like people are tired of it. They want like more genuine. They'd rather have just like a basic photo from your iPhone at this point. That's the sentiment that I'm hearing across the board. So I think imagery in particular, you got to be careful. Like it can turn off people depending on how you're using it, but it is crazy. It's becoming like a really incredible design tool at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like just today, I haven't posted it yet, so I won't say exactly what it is, but I have a professional photograph that my neighbor's a photographer, and, I did a studio shoot with her a while back. And I gave it to chat, and then I said, do blah, blah, blah. And actually, it came back with one image. I was like, yeah, make this thing bigger because I want it to be a little bit funny, my relationship with the object. I'm just leaving a little teaser in there. And I was pretty happy. I also gave it an example, actually. Uh,
Yeah. It
I
also
gave
sounds like
it,
you're using it in an AI way. Like it's like supposed to be an AI. Like it's like, like creating this like
yeah,
exaggerated image. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was my real
Hmm.
image, and it was a professional photograph to begin with. But
Yeah. I also have a complicated relationship with the visual components of AI. My team and I talk about this because AI and like design resources, even within Claude, you can start designing like PDFs and things. We have a complicated relationship with it because there is this like ethical responsibility with AI too, like with the environment and, like all the things that come along with that, which we don't have to get into, but I think it is something we need to pay attention to, that we're not just, overusing something that is, going to be the demise of our environment or anything like that.
well, I was an environmental studies major in college. I'll just leave it at that. So, and let's just say I'm not driving an electric car, although I do feel quite guilty about it, and I hope our next car will be.
Electric cars are a little controversial. Again, we don't, this is a whole other podcast, but
That's true because there's the whole
the
life cycle.
batteries and
Yeah,
the
you can't,
batteries. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
extraction of
Yeah.
extracting materials. Yes, the things that are being extracted, the extractive technologies are
Hmm.
causing some bad environmental impacts where the minerals are. But yes, I get it. Anyway, um, like reduce, reuse, recycle, I think is the
Uh-huh.
three. And so reduce is the first one. So just stop using so much stuff. But I don't know. I'm at a slightly different life stage than you, so I'm like sitting in my air conditioned house. I'm not just
Yeah.
using a fan.
I
So
mean, I have AC too, trust me. I don't like the heat.
yeah. Okay. All right. I wasn't saying not use AC, but it's like anyway. Okay, so we're getting near the end here. So for someone listening who is about to launch a firm, if you were to give them just three marketing priorities for their first 90 days, what would they be?
What would be my three priorities? Decide what your practice is going to be and get specific about it. Think about like who your ideal client would be and then create everything around that ideal client. So if it is this like strong career woman that's like late in her career, try to speak to her in everything that you're doing and try to create things that she would want to hear. So I would say like sit down, do that exercise, really hone in on that. And then I would say create as much as you can ahead of time. So like prepping your LinkedIn profile, prepping your headline to like have this new headline, make some semblance of a website and have a logo, and prep everything so that when launch day comes, you can make it all live all at once and it can be this announcement. And then my third recommendation would be to make sure you have a plan to continue talking about it. Continue talking about what you're doing, who you're serving, whether that's like one social post a week on LinkedIn, whether that's a monthly newsletter or blog. It's just something to keep you top of mind and keep that momentum so that you're not going to lose on that exciting announcement.
Okay, that's terrific advice. All right, final question I like to ask all my guests. What's one movie, streaming television series, or podcast that you would recommend? And this is something for entertainment.
Yeah. I cannot get over the movie Obsession right now. It's a scary movie, a horror movie, and I will say that it is a very, very dark concept when you like grasp what's going on in the movie. But it was this like low budget indie scary movie that came out in the last year, I think. They did it in like $500,000 budget, and most of the cast members are like people you've never heard of before, and the acting is just phenomenal, and it's a really well done scary movie. And I think if you like scary movies, go for it. If you don't like them,
I don't like
don't do
scary
it. Yeah.
movies.
It's not to clarify, it's not like pop-up scary. There's a couple unsettling parts, but it's mostly like psychologically you're just like,
I
yeah.
hate that the most, actually.
Yep. Steve, this recommendation is not for you, but I couldn't think of anything.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. We have a range of guests that are listening. A range. Our audience comes from a range of backgrounds. So, and as I was saying to you when we were just chit-chatting, I think that people's reaction to art, theater, music is very personal, and it just strikes a chord. And for some people, like thrillers or whatnot, it just does something for you that actually does have a beneficial effect. So, or you could just like it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm a big fan of like cinematography and really well done acting. And like the actress in it that's like the lead, her ability to like change emotions and things is wild. Like very impressive.
All right. I'll give it I'll give it consideration.
You can watch the trailer and call it a day.
Okay. All right, Michele, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I've been enjoying getting to know you better. Thanks so much for joining us. If anyone in our audience has follow-up questions, wants to sign up for your newsletter, how can they reach you?
You can find us on our website or on my LinkedIn. So my name is Michele Correnti, Michele, and then Correnti. And our website is correntimarketing.com. We do have a LinkedIn newsletter. We also have a newsletter sign up on our website if you want the same newsletter in a different format via email. And you can stay connected with me on LinkedIn.
Okay. And I really encourage everybody to sign up for that newsletter. She's got great content.
Thanks, Steve.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please tell others and rate us on iTunes or your favorite podcast app, and share it with someone you think might be interested. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. It will help others find us. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I welcome your inquiries and invite you to set up a time to speak with me about your own career or marketing concerns. I've been coaching lawyers for almost 30 years, and I'm happy to do a free 30-minute consultation. You could sign up at my website at www.seckler.com. On my website, you could also find links to more episodes of Counsel to Counsel and get access to many free career, marketing, and leadership resources. In the meantime, thanks for listening.